Woakes is into the attack and into the wickets.
That has been a wonderful chase by England.
Woakes peels back the off stump.
How good is that from Chris Woakes?
Delighted. Came as a bit of a shock as well. It's been a bit of a tricky year in terms of cricket being on. But credit to everyone who's got that on and happening. But yeah, I feel obviously honoured, and it's a privilege to receive the reward. Some great players have won it. So to be amongst them is brilliant.
Obviously picking this up after the year after Ben Stokes last year as well. Quite nice to keep it in the England changing room.
Yeah, I mean, England players generally don't tend to win it too often, do they? So, it makes it even a little bit more rewarding, really. After what Ben did last year, I think, it's tough to beat that and top that. He had an incredible year, obviously with the World Cup and Ashes. But, this year we've had a full international schedule, with everything that's gone on with COVID. It's credit to everyone to make that happen. So, really pleased with how my own performance went, and obviously the teams as well, to win the majority of our series. It was unfortunate we didn't get over the line against the Aussies at the end, but it's been a great year for us as a team, so really pleased.
And yourself, obviously, it's the back-to-back MVP across the summer for England anyway. That's an indicator, I suppose, of consistency throughout the summer. That must show that you must be really pleased with how you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose it's a good gauge of how you're performing. Really pleased with how my own performance went. I think at the start of the summer, with a full squad available to the England team, I wasn't really 100% sure how much I'd play and how much I'd feature. So, to get 5 tests in out of the 6, be picked on merit for that is really pleasing. Pleased with how it came out with the ball, and contributed with the bat occasionally when needed to as well. So, yeah, it was a different summer, but in terms of my own performance, I was really pleased with how it went.
And the last couple of years, I suppose. Generally, obviously, last summer I spoke about really good World Cup, Ashes, and then went away to New Zealand. Good tour for yourself, and then getting into the South Africa team as well, and then backing that up. You must feel like you're much closer to, I suppose, nailing on a place there in the team.
Yeah, exactly that. I think the more you play, and the more I've played as an England player, I realise that when you get the opportunity, you really do need to take it with both hands and kind of express yourself really, and give yourself the best opportunity to perform, which then obviously leads to more appearances for the team. But I had a good winter in amongst a few issues with illness, which everyone did in South Africa. But when I got my opportunities, I felt like I did okay, and feel like it's a bit of a breakthrough winter for me. In terms of performing away from home, and then just kicked on for the summer. Really, obviously we had the break with the pandemic shutting everything down, but. I felt like I hit the ground running actually, and was really pleased with how the ball came out in particular early on in the summer. So I just tried to run with it, and thankfully a few performances followed.
Yeah, it's strange. Obviously, that first game of the summer, yourself and Brody kind of missed out then and came back from them, and probably been two best bowlers really from then on in. It shows you that seems quite a long time ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think it shows the depth that we had in we do have in that England squad at the moment. Myself and Brody missed out that first game, and Brody voiced his concerns, and fair play to him to back that up and come out and have a great summer. He was by far our best bowler this summer. So he was fantastic as well, and brilliant for us as a team. But yeah, I think it just shows what depth we do have amongst that squad at the moment. And that only holds us in good stead moving forward. We've got some obviously big series coming up. India in the new year, and then followed by that 12 months later, the big one down under. So it's important that we have a good squad, particularly of fast bowlers, and we certainly have that at the moment.
Does it help you raise your game, knowing the fact not just the ones that are in and around, but obviously the bubble, the wider squad, a lot of the best county players obviously stepped up and trained with you. Does that make you raise your game?
Yeah, I think naturally it does. Without you kind of forcing it, I think naturally we've all got that competitive edge in us. Otherwise we wouldn't be where we are. So it certainly helps us. I think that training camp down at the Rose Bowl, where, like you say, we had about 30 players down there. Effectively the 30 best players in the country, all vying for spots in the England team, was really healthy for everyone, I suppose, to get them competitive juices going after a little break. I think it helped everyone, particularly the guys that obviously got selected for the squads were in a good shape going into those test matches. So credit to everyone for that.
And how do you think personally? Obviously, a couple of the highlights from you, I suppose, with the ball, but and the bat, obviously the match-winning knock.
Yeah, I mean, I was due with the bat, to be honest with you, at some point this summer. You pick your brains as to why you aren't scoring runs at times, and then something just clicks, and you get that performance like I did against Pakistan. To win that test match from where we were was pretty incredible. I think that was probably the big highlight for me of the summer. Putting on that partnership with Joss when the game looked almost dead and buried. That's one of the knocks which, and partnerships which I'll treasure forever. Really, the only, I suppose, gutting part of it is that it wasn't in front of a full house on a Saturday afternoon at Old Trafford. But it is what it is, and I'll never forget that partnership with Joss. The only other thing would have been nice to have both of us to be there at the end and walk off together. But a great win and a great test match to witness as well.
But that was one of those tests, wasn't it, where although there was no one there, like it had the nation gripped, everyone was watching it, thinking back 12 months of pretty similar kind of run chase, really big score, not being wrote off. How do you kind of, I suppose, get yourself in the mindset to face that many balls and to be on the attack to score those runs? Yeah,
I think that the situation helped us in a sense that we were obviously up against it a little bit, and I think the kind of situation dictated that we had to put the pressure back on Pakistan, kind of counter attack, and it suited particularly myself, and also Joss. We know Joss is one of the best white ball players in the world, so he almost went into one day mode and just played his natural game, and I just kind of followed at the other end really. I think that just played into our hands. I think it's easy to think, when you're in those situations, you've got to dig in and face as many balls as possible. But we felt the best mode of, I suppose the best mode of attack was to attack, and to try and win that game was only by getting the runs as quickly as possible, I suppose, before a ball had our name on it. We saw how Ollie got out, Ollie Pope, and, it wasn't too pleasant. So we thought we'd best get on with it, and it worked. And
obviously that, we're there 5 for as well, with red ball and Northern. How pleased were you, I suppose, that both sides of your game could come together in kind of a similar time?
Yeah, I think, in particular with the ball, that's my primary skill, and my main job, I suppose, in the team is to take wickets. I felt good all summer with the ball. Don't really put anything on as to why. Just kind of clicked into rhythm, and I managed to pick up wickets at key times, which is always a good sign. When you're getting good players out, that's a good sign as well. So it's hard for me to put my finger on why it went so well with the ball, but I found a rhythm early. As I said, with hardly any match practice under our belts, I thought we all performed really well. But the 5 for against West Indies was kind of a bit of an icing on the cake at the end of that series, really, because I felt like I'd put in some good performances, and didn't quite have that 5 for under my belt. So that was really a really rewarding moment.
And you mentioned there, I suppose the bubble, just exactly how was that? Lots of people have talked about it, but especially obviously when you've got a pregnant wife at home and child, obviously you're missing and you're away for such a long period of time. How challenging was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was tough being in the bubble. I worry sometimes about saying it was so hard, because obviously there's people out there that are struggling a lot more than what we are. But obviously being away from friends and family is tough. And we're in an environment where we were kind of living with each other for weeks and on end at a time. And, especially when you're we're used to touring and we're used to being away from family quite a bit. But the fact that you were in your own country and, we're used to, when we're playing home games, popping home here and there. That was quite difficult to kind of just get used to, really. The bubble life of obviously keeping social distancing and eating on each other, on our own tables in the canteen as such in the hotels was, eventually it kind of just gets to you a little bit. But, everyone got stuck in, got on with it. And I think the main thing was that when we got to play cricket, we were focused on the cricket and, tried to get our job done out on the field. And, credit to everyone firstly everyone at the ECB, PCA, for helping and making sure that we got cricket on. But also for the lads for putting in such a shift and performing so well.
That's the thing. The players, obviously, played through this pandemic. Obviously, you mentioned there that the bubble that was well looked after, but a lot of the county players as well, perhaps not had the testing regimes and things. There's got to be some credit, I guess, to the players, not just yourself and the England team, but the counties to play through this to help the game and the broadcast money and everything else.
Yeah, I think we had a duty to try and get cricket back on and being played, didn't we? Because the numbers have been mentioned, and some very large numbers, that potential losses within the game. The only way we were going to limit that was by getting out there and playing, and a huge thanks to the teams that came over and played as well. West Indies, Pakistan, Australia, and Ireland as well. Credit for them for coming over and playing in which has been such difficult times. To come over and live in a bubble. To make sure that we had international cricket being played on our grounds is fantastic as well. So credit to everyone involved there.
Obviously, your season finished a week or two ago when you finished up against Australia. Did you potentially think that you could walk home with the Reg Hayter Cup at the end of it?
I didn't even. It genuinely didn't cross my mind. I hadn't really thought too much. I think, as I mentioned earlier, not many England players tend to win the award. Mainly because I suppose the county players constantly playing against each other as much as possible, and with such condensed schedules. Some player generally runs away with it. Obviously Stokes had a year which he's probably not ever going to be beaten last year, and rightfully so. He won the award, so I do feel very honoured to have picked it up. It's an incredible, I suppose, I'm just really pleased to have been able to have that recognition from your fellow professionals. So obviously delighted.
I mean, it must mean that, I suppose, a lot of those players obviously you won't have played against this year like you a little bit. It must feel quite nice.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's hard to put your finger on it, isn't it? I mean, obviously I've performed reasonably well, and hopefully that speaks volumes for it as well. But obviously thank you to everyone who voted. I suppose it does mean that there was a few standout performances, and that was in people's minds. I think, obviously the fact that there hasn't been a full county schedule as such, maybe that's swayed a few people's minds. But again, I won't take for granted what such a prestigious award that actually is.
And yourself, I know you're one of the number one fans of the NatWest PCA Awards, aren't you? How, I suppose, gutted I suppose that you can't be there and we can't all be celebrating what's been achieved this year.
Yeah, I think it's always a great evening to come together. Teammates, staff, people that you don't get to see all year round who work hard behind the scenes. Play your rivals, you come up against them, and you get there at the end of the season, have a good drink, and celebrate everyone's success. And it's a great evening at the PCA Awards. But unfortunately that isn't going to be the case. But hopefully next year we'll get a good evening, and everyone can enjoy it twice over to make up for this year. But it is what it is, and unfortunately it's not going to be. But thanks to everyone for sticking with us, and really enjoyed this year.
And just a word on NatWest as well. Obviously the principal partner of the ECB, been involved for almost 40 years now in kind of sponsoring the game, sponsoring the PCA as well. Just how important is NatWest's involvement, I suppose, in cricket to, obviously, especially in times like this, you need your sponsors, don't you, to work closely? Yeah,
I mean, NatWest have been brilliant. Obviously, they've been involved, as you've mentioned there, in with the PCA for a good number of years. They're always been there and through grassroots levels as well. But they always help out with the PCA Awards as well, always put on a good show there. But it's important for us, particularly in these tough times, to have your sponsors and to back you. Because I suppose now more than ever, it's easy for people to be looking at their own houses and pulling out and saving money. But really are grateful for what NatWest do for the game.